Hey guys and gals, we're having an in-person meetup in Southern Arizona, specifically Tucson, on Thursday, May 16th, 6:30 in the evening at Desert Diamond Casino in Sahuarita, and I would love to see you there. Here's who this event is for. This event is for real estate investors. So anybody currently doing deals, whether you're a wholesaler or whether you're doing multifamily or residential fix and flips or raw land, whether you're doing storage units or mobile home parks or RV campgrounds, whatever you're investing in, we want to hear about it. We want to meet you and provide value to you and connect you with who you need to be connected with, specifically lenders, family offices, attorneys, title companies, appraisers, contractors, subcontractors, whoever you need to get more deals done, whoever you need to meet so that you can scale your business. We've got two fabulous featured speakers at this event. We're going to start off with some mingling, and then you're going to hear from Kyle Smith from Supreme Creations construction company. He's been doing this for over 40 years. He's dual licensed in both residential and commercial. That is huge. Not too many people are. And he's just a wealth of knowledge. He's going to share with you about kitchens and bathrooms, but not only that, just what kind of hurdles you can expect and timelines and how to save money. He has a wealth of knowledge. He is a breath of fresh air. You definitely want to hear what he has to say. He can help you so much. Secondly, we are going to hear from the magical, I'm just going to throw glitter all over him, the Attorney Todd Jarvis, locally here in Tucson. He is amazing. He is also a wealth of knowledge. He's going to be dropping golden nuggets and knowledge bombs all over the place, because he teaches us not only to not commingle our personal with our business and how to separate those two entities, but he teaches us what to do in the event of a breakup, if you and your business partner break up. And he also teaches you how to structure your business, have an exit strategy, outline everything on paper so everything's crystal clear, and not only protect your business from being sued, but protect your family as well in the event that something happens to you. So he is going to blow it out of the water. So I really hope that you come out and make some connections, meet some new people, see what deals are being done here in Tucson and beyond, and hear these featured speakers. By the way, I'm your hostess with the mostest. My name is Stacy Olinger. I'm the general partner at Pathstone Capital. And again, we connect real estate investors with who they need to meet, because it's all about who and not how. And that's why we're putting on this event. Again, it's going to be on Thursday, May 16th, 6:30 in the evening, Desert Diamond Casino in Sahuarita. Really hope to see you there. Registration is required. There's an Eventbrite link below to register. It's free. Please click on that so that you can get reminders and instructions on, like, which door to go in and all that stuff. Because you don't actually go into the casino. We are kind of like to the left of the casino in the banquet rooms. So you're going to need to know that kind of stuff. It all goes out in an email to you along with reminders so you don't forget. So sign up on the Eventbrite, and I'm really looking forward to shaking your hand and meeting you in person.
I call real estate investors my accidental entrepreneurs. And you know the rest of the saying? All the world's billionaires are made in business. If there's something goes wrong in the investment, and it's a bad business deal, they happen. Bad investments happen. Hopefully, all it is a learning experience. With risk comes reward, but you can deal with those risks, and you can overcome that stress of worrying about those risks by educating yourself and working with an advisor that can help you, guide you on a constant basis. Just like I was saying, so I got into estate planning. I originally became an attorney to work with business owners to help, because I have a real entrepreneurial spirit, right? And before law school, actually I was working for a tech company, a Fortune 500 tech company, a big software hardware company in the dental industry. But I was kind of like an internal entrepreneur, right? When they needed a new department developed, they were trying to do, back in early 2000s when we wanted the support group wanted to have at-home techs, when that wasn't like an everyday thing, right? As it is today, back when it was something new and something that we didn't know how to manage or the best way to do it with tech. There's like, hey, I went and they asked me to build it out. So I build out, different departments, different processes, just like I said, and then put a manager in place and they take it forward, right?
Okay.
But when I first started practicing, I wanted to, work with business owners, and I found pretty quickly through working with business owners and being a business owner myself that, yeah, we can do some really good structural things. We can do some real creative things to make sure that the business is successful. We know how to get clients. We're getting clients. We're growing. We're protecting those things with, different entity structures and buy-sell agreements between partners, and setting expectations with each other as partners on what we can expect from each other and how we're going to deal with it if someone lets the other one down or if someone, decides they want out, and then also getting ready to exit, right? I mean, exit planning is important. Allergies are killing me today. This last week, just drying me out, right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It was weird going to Florida in humidity and then coming back to the dryness.
Dry, right?
So
Yeah.
in Florida at the conference, they had a guy talking about trusts, and he was talking about the difference between the business owner being the grantor versus being the trustee, and how you would basically put everything into the trust with a bill of sale. So you sell everything to the trust. So the trust owns everything. Do you want me to ask you about that during our conversation?
And tell you how much that guy is
Full of shit? Is he
sitting
full
at-
of shit?
Yeah, he is.
Were you in the room during that presentation?
Yeah.
I was sitting in like the second row.
Yeah?
Didn't
I don't
even
know
see
how
you
we
in
missed each
there.
other.
How did that happen?
Especially like, me and my bright colors. I mean,
All right,
was
tell me
wearing purple
why
or-
what that guy said is full of shit. Tell me why.
okay, so why is because one, if you listen to him, he talks about how you sell your business or your assets to your trust, right? And he says, you go ahead and you sell it in there, right? And it becomes this arm's length deal. And you don't have to pay taxes, right? The problem is, if you ask him, and I was standing next to someone who was asking, right? I didn't want to confront this guy. He's got his business, he can do what he wants, right? And I didn't go around telling anybody anything. But if someone talked to me about it like you did, I'll talk to him, I'll give my opinion and my thoughts. But they'll say, yeah, you sell it off your tax basis, right? So you don't have a capital gains. Yeah, so the problem with that is the IRS can always come back. If it's a true arm's length deal, you selling your business or selling your house or selling a piece of property, whatever it is, to someone else, you're not going to sell it at your tax basis to avoid capital gains, right? Because you didn't gain anything. It's like, why did you spend all that time with this asset if you weren't going to gain from it? And the IRS will see that as an indication that it's not an arm's length deal. You cut your trust a really good deal. Why? Because you didn't want to pay capital gains tax. And that right there, the IRS is going to be like, what? So they're going to be upset about that probably. Another thing is, and later on, trusts have their own, it's an irrevocable trust that he was talking about, which irrevocable trusts have their own tax identification number. They file their own taxes, right? That's what he was saying. You can have this trust, own your business, and it's doing these things anyways. And it's a non-grantor, it's a grantor trust. Someone has to pay income taxes. It's going to happen. Whether it's your trust or whether it's what they call an intentionally defective grantor trust, meaning that the grantor, the income is attributed to the grantor, then the income tax is paid by the grantor on their normal 1040, right? If they're an individual. A lot of times irrevocable trusts are set up that way, if they can be, because trusts accelerate through tax brackets faster than people do.
Okay.
So taxes, the same amount of income, a trust is highly likely is going to be paying more in income tax than an individual. And there's really very limited ways to get away with not paying income tax on income of a benefit. So anyways, and then capital gains, you can defer capital gains, sure, right? You can do 1031 exchanges, you can do different things, but it's really hard. My rule of thumb, I think it's a pretty good one. And most attorneys I've talked to kind of have the same general rule of thumb. If someone tells you, hey, you can have your cake and eat it too, right? You can have all the benefit, all the income, the lifestyle of owning this asset, but not have to pay most of the taxes or no taxes, and have no personal liability, or have complete liability protection, 100% creditor protection, and just turn around and walk the other way or run.
Red flag,
Red flags. IRS has put out a lot of letters on these things. And they're, usually come in different flavors. They call them different things. Some people are like, oh, they're spendthrift trust or irrevocable complex spendthrift. They'll add all these adjectives to them and things like that. But, I didn't spend the time to completely listen to their pitch and understand exactly what they're doing. But I listened to enough to realize that most probably what they're doing is not, and they would tell you they're not CPAs, they're not attorneys.
They're selling a product.
And they're relying on contract law for a trust, and they're couching everything in the fact that contract law is federal or something like that. And those are just some things I've heard in vehicles that people are selling that I know don't pass the sniff test.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm definitely all about deferring taxes. I'm all about tax strategy. Don't pay Uncle Sam more than you need to, but pay him what you need to, right? And be smart about it. And a lot of things we learned about over the conference about funds, that's why a lot of wealthy people invest in funds or start funds, because a lot of it's just carried interest or capital gains, or there's tax advantages to that rather than just getting a paycheck or getting K1s or something. Yeah, so there's ways to minimize the amount of taxes you're paying, but you got to make sure that you're doing it within the rules.
Yeah.
And I'm never a big fan. So I'm an attorney, right? And so my job is to identify risk, especially what I do, right? With business development, business planning, business strategy, and estate planning and legacy planning, asset protection planning. It's all about finding and naming the risks and then seeing how you can mitigate the risk. Here's a risk, what can we do about it? Okay, we could do these 3 things. These are the consequences. These are advantages. These are pros and cons of doing this specific plan, right? And so you weigh the costs, the pros and cons of any specific strategy against the risk and decide for yourself, if you want to implement implement the strategy to reduce or mitigate your risk or not, right? Is it worth the time, energy, and money to put the strategy in place and to maintain that strategy in order to mitigate this risk, right? That's kind of the question with everything we do here, right?
Like kind of do it when you're ready for it, and you don't have to.
Yeah. Right.
You build the plane as you're flying it. You don't necessarily have to, create this whole empire and then launch. You want to kind of launch ugly, is what I hear you saying.
You can, right?
Okay.
But just be aware of how ugly it is. You're making a intentional and educated decision not to implement a strategy. It's not that you don't know the strategy doesn't exist. Quick example of that is real estate investors, okay? I think this is a great example. I call real estate investors my accidental entrepreneurs. Right? So what I mean by that is a lot of people know real estate can be a great investment. It's one of the few assets that over time, if you look at the graph, as long as you zoom out a decent amount, it's going up and to the right? Sure, there's little dips, but overall.
Yeah, the world's millionaires are made in real estate.
Yeah, so, and the rest of the saying?
Go ahead, say it.
Okay. All the world's billionaires are made in business. Okay. But no, so
real estate investors are your accidental entrepreneurs.
Yes, because it's a really good investment that a lot of people know about. Not everybody can access it, right? I mean, that's a lot of what you're trying to accomplish here, right? Is help more people access it in an intelligent way and educating people, which is awesome. I love it. But one thing about real estate, it's a hot asset, okay? What I mean by that is it can generate liabilities.
Okay.
Other investments, 401ks, for example, 401k is never going to sue you, right? I mean, but your tenant might. Or the old lady walking down the street tripping on the crack in your sidewalk might.
Okay.
So there's liabilities associated with real estate investing, right? That's why so one way of dealing with that is to treat the investment as a business, because really it's a business. If you're lending, maybe you're doing land leases, you own a plot of land, you own a corner of an intersection, you want to make money, so you lease it to McDonald's or Walgreens or QT or Circle K or whatever. A lot of Circle Ks are on leased land, right? I mean, most of Manhattan is on leased land, right? The Empire State Building The owners of the that trust that owns this Empire State Building does not own the land it's built on.
Interesting.
Land's owned by somebody else. There's a 99-year lease on the land to the people who are developing and own the building. Now, I mean, maybe there's common owners, but they're different entities, right?
Okay.
But yeah, so leased land leases is a thing. A lot of gas stations are built on leased land. So the owner of the land just leases it for development, and the people build it and run businesses on it.
So they can get sued. You're saying that the landowner can get sued?
Yeah, because for anything that happens there, or if you do own a house, right, and you're leasing the house, tenants can sue you. Anyways, so moral of the story, that was a long way to get here. Real estate, it's a business. You're operating a business of leasing properties for whatever purpose. So why not treat it like a business and take advantage of some of the risk mitigation tactics and strategies we use in business every day? Entity structure is one of them, right? So you create an LLC, transfer your land, your real estate, your building, whatever it is, into the LLC, a tax identification number for it, open a bank account for it, and run it as a business. Now, if you do a good job of that, if you've created your LLC correctly and you're maintaining your corporate documents correctly, doing your annual minutes, and I know LLCs statutes don't usually require you to do annual minutes, but a judge would love to see them, right? That's just more evidence that you're running this business separate. Because when you get sued, you're going to want to go to the court and say, hey, judge, this LLC has nothing to do with my personal bank account, has nothing to do with my home that my wife and I and my 5 kids, or in my case, 7 kids live in, right? You want to be able to say that. You want to be able to maintain that liability shield between your personal life and your business, your rental. You create that LLC and you maintain it properly. You don't commingle your funds, and you don't commingle any of the activities you're doing, right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what I mean by accidental entrepreneurs. So
people need to know this. Absolutely. So the types of people that are coming to this meetup, we've got wholesalers coming, we've got fix and flip people coming, we've got people doing multifamily apartment complexes, we've got people doing other commercial real estate like storage facilities or RV campgrounds or mobile home parks, things like that. So we've also got some people who are just professionals, doctors, dentists, engineers, attorneys, so forth, who know that they should be getting in the real estate game and they want to get started, but they're not necessarily sure how. Maybe they don't have time to research a property and so forth, and they want to leverage other people's expertise and other people's deals that they already have flowing. They want to access other people's deal flow. So those are the types of people that are coming, and they're looking to meet lenders, they're looking to meet attorneys like you, they're looking to meet title companies, they're looking to meet construction contractors, things like that. So you are going to be one of the guest speakers at this event. It's at the casino, Desert Diamond Casino in Sahuarita on Thursday night, May 16th, starting at 6:30 in the evening, running till 8:30 in the evening. We're going to start with some mingling. If any latecomers show up, we're going to mingle a little bit first. Then I'm going to hop on stage and talk about myself a little bit. My name is Stacy Olinger, and I'm the general partner at Pathstones Capital. And basically, we make land ownership easy and affordable for everyone, and we do that through owner financing. So we also partner with other people who are doing real estate deals. We partner with other real estate investors and help them get connected to who they need to be connected to, who they need to meet in order to scale, who they need to meet in order to do more deals or protect their assets and so forth. So I'm going to hop on stage first, and then we're going to have a general contractor hop on stage for a few minutes, and then Mr. Todd Jarvis, attorney at law, is going to give us some gold nuggets and some knowledge bombs. So can you give us just a little sneak peek on the value that you're going to bring everybody at the meetup?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm super excited about this. I really appreciate inviting me. I love sharing about this stuff. It's a part of what I do that I love the most, is just getting out, meeting people, educating, sharing how people can really take control of their situations, right? And really define, how they want their life to go and how they want their investments to be secured. The topic, really what I'll be talking about is kind of what I call like the 5 levels of asset protection, right? So we'll be talking about why do you need to think about asset protection, right? And why different parts of your life that can be affected by it, and how it can help you really excel in your investment endeavors. Business, investing, life in general, it's all about relationships. That's what it comes down to, right? It's relationships with the people you're buying from, selling to, it's relationships with your partners, it's relationships with your spouse, it's relationships with kids, it's relationships with vendors and strategic partners, right? So really what it comes down to is I would like to share with everybody ways that they can optimize those relationships by setting expectations, setting boundaries, setting that, my way of looking at asset protection, I'm looking at, even like when we get down to like trust or anything, a lot of these things they're just contracts, right? They're agreements. And so what those agreements let us do is set expectations on how we're going to work together, right? So when we set up these different strategies, these 5 levels of asset protection, we're really just putting in place on what our relationship is going to be with anybody who we might interact with these investments. Where real estate, it's going to be tenants, right? Or it's going to be a purchaser if we're flipping it. It's going to be a contract if we're improving land, right? Or a building. And how can you protect yourself in that relationship?
Which is so important if there's a breakup, because breakups happen all the time. And then what do you do? How do you exit?
Yeah. What if someone doesn't fulfill their end of the bargain? They didn't live up to their expectations.
Yeah.
Well, you have already agreed to how you're going to deal with it, and you have protections and stopgaps in place to minimize the damage to you. Especially, that's what we're really worried about. We're really focused on protecting you personally and your family, if you have one, anybody you care about, right? Let's protect them, make sure, because these investments, the whole purpose of them, it's fun. Right? It's fun to do these things. We get some enjoyment out of it. It gives us purpose. When we have a business, whether it's through a real estate investment or because we're a physician, we all look at our businesses and our investments as kind of part of us, right? They're kind of like our baby, right? It's part of our personality. It's part of who we are.
Yeah.
But to our spouse who's not involved, or our kids, it's income stream. Right? It's security, it's food on the table, it's shelter over their head. So let's make sure that these investment and businesses, related businesses, that they can continue to provide for your family in the event something happens to you, death, disability, a partnership breakup. Let's make sure your family's taken care of. And if there's something goes wrong in the investment, it's a bad business deal, they happen, right? Bad investments happen. Well, hopefully all it is a learning experience, and it doesn't come home and affect your family's life going forward. So that's what we're really talking about. It's like, how can we make sure that as these swings in the market that we're seeing, and if we get into a multifamily home and our balloon payments come due, interest rates are through the roof, what are we going to do, right? Well, let's have a plan in place for that to mitigate the damage and take advantage of the windfalls that come from that, right? So that's really what we're here for, and that's what I hope to share, is to help people, one, feel secure that they can mitigate the risks that are associated with these types of investments, with land and real estate.
Yeah, so there's a really great quote in the ebook called Wear Clean Underwear, which I'm going to allude on to just a minute, but there's a quote in that ebook that says, family wealth planning is about your life, not your death. So most people think that family planning is about, your will and what's going to happen to all your stuff when you die. But there's a story in that ebook. The ebook is called Always Wear Clean Underwear. And there's a story in that book that tugged on my heartstrings and made me bawl my eyes out. And it's how I met you in the first place, Todd. So if you don't mind me sharing this story, there's a story in the ebook about a mom. And so I'm a mama bird. I'm a homeschooler. I'm just, if anything comes to children, it tugs on my heartstrings so much. So there's a story in there about a woman who's a business professional. Her husband occasionally has to go on business trips, and he went on a business trip to France. Now, she's blessed to have a nanny that she trusts to take care of her 2 young children, ages 4 and 6, while she has to go out on client meetings sometimes. So one morning she had a client meeting that was supposed to be 3 hours long. So she called Courtney, the nanny, had her come over, and she said, I'm just going to be 3 hours at this client meeting. She goes downtown to the building where the meeting's at, find out the client canceled. She's like, well, shoot, like I already paid the nanny for the day. I'm just going to grab a quick workout, right? So she decides to go to the gym with her free time that, her children are securely taken care of. So she goes to the gym, she puts her phone and her identification and her purse and everything in a locker, some random unknown locker. They don't know which locker is yours, right? Her car's in the parking lot. They don't know which car is hers, for example. So she is working out and boom, has an aneurysm. It bursts in her brain and boom, she's dead and she has no identification on her and they don't know who to call, for example. So here's Courtney, the nanny, at home with the children. And, the mom said, well, she was only going to be 3 hours. 3 hours has gone by. She's running late. That's not like her. Let's call her on the phone. Okay. No one's picking up on her phone. This isn't like her to not check in, sort of thing. Right. And the husband is out of town on that business trip in France. Right. So pretty soon it's like dinner time. Right. So she goes ahead and feeds the children dinner. She puts them in the bed, has them watching TV, that kind of stuff. And she starts to get really, really nervous. So she ends up calling the police. And they finally put it together that this woman who died at the gym is the mother of these children. So the cops show up at the door and they talk to Courtney, the nanny. And they're like, ma'am, here's what happened. And, you can go home now. And Courtney's like, well, wait a minute. What about the children? Like, what's going to happen to them? She's like, I'm with them all day, every day, all the time. They know me. They like me. They trust me. Can't I just stay with them until the father gets home from France? He's having flight delays and weather delays and he can't get home for like 48 hours. Can the children stay with me? They're like, no, ma'am, there's no documentation saying that you have any interest in these children. And she's like, well, what about the neighbors next door? They go over there all the time. They're best friends with their kids and they have sleepovers together all the time. And these neighbors are like, their aunt and uncle, they trust them. What about them? No, ma'am, they can't go to the neighbors either. They have to come with Child Protective Services and be placed in a foster home until dad gets home from France. And these children are just traumatized. They don't know what's happening with their parents. They're sleeping in a strange bed. They've got strange kids that they're sharing a room with. And it's just like, this makes my heart break, because if you spell all this out and put this all in a plan, this could all be avoided. Like if something were to happen to you or your business, everybody else knows what to do, who to call, and so forth. And that's how I found you. And that's why I'm a client of yours. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
100%. Yeah. So that's one of my favorite things that we do. I'm a father, right? Being a husband and father is why I do anything, right? It's why I work. I like what I do, but honestly, I'd rather spend more time with the kids and with the family, right? But I do this so that I can have time and we can have experiences together. So yeah, it's the same kind of thing, right? It's so really, what it comes down to is planning for your family. This specific situation you're talking about and dealing with it is, unfortunately, is even in the professional world of estate planning, where you think this would be dealt with, this level of planning is not always considered. Sure, I don't know an estate planner out there, whether they're a document preparer or a DIY download system or an attorney like myself, that won't help you put in your will who's going to raise your kids long-term if you pass away before they're 18. But dealing with this situation is something that doesn't happen very often. And it's frustrating and it's too bad. And it kind of breaks my heart too, because, for kids to be with someone that they don't know or trust, or to think about your kids being with someone they don't know and trust in a situation where, something just happened to their parents, that's traumatic. It's got to be a really difficult situation for kids at the end. So if you can take control of that and you can decide, hey, if something happens to me because I'm stuck on vacation, or because you and your spouse get in a car accident on the way home from a date, that you've empowered someone or people, neighbors, friends, family within 10, 15 minutes of your home, if you can empower them to authorize them legally to be able to care for your kids on a temporary basis, that can make the world a difference for your family in these situations. And it doesn't get done a lot. I stumbled into doing this one, the author of that book you quoted, and this is what I learned from her, just planning. I wasn't doing this before. I met her and I learned about how we can do what kids protection planning is what we call it. And it's important for me to be able to provide this for families, because I work with a lot of business owners, and business owners generally are younger, they're 35 to 60, and so they have kids at home still, right? where most estate planning attorneys or most estate planners are probably working with retired couples, right? It's kind of
Okay.
the thing. But with my experience with most of my clients still having kids at home, this is vital that we take care of their kids. We make sure that we dealt with this because most of the time that long-term guardian that you've decided who's going to raise your kids for you until they're 18, if you pass away, with our transient lifestyle now, we're all spread everywhere, right? The person who's going to raise our kids for us, if we pass away before they're 18, lives in Utah, right? I live in Arizona. They're not going to get there overnight. Just like in this story, authorities are going to be involved. So having a plan for them is crucial so that they're comfortable in probably one of the hardest experiences they're ever going to go through, if it does happen. And that's why it is a planning for life. You're planning for life because when you get a plan in place, when you've dealt with the big what ifs of death, incapacity, any of these things that can happen, illness, when you've put a plan in place and you've appropriately communicated that plan, so not only have you asked people, to step in and help you when you need it, but you've told them how and you've educated them on how to do it and they're ready to go, right?
So your wishes are honored. Yeah. So I think this is a perfect segue over to stress and health, because a lot of business owners put their health on the back burner. They're under a lot of stress with the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. So can you talk about how partnering with an attorney and utilizing your services can alleviate some of that stress?
Yeah, definitely. Because a lot of the stress comes from the unknown and a lot of what we do. And when you know what you're dealing with earlier, we talked about knowing what risks you're taking in your business and planning for those can give you that peace of mind, right? Knowing full on the estate planning side, hey, I know what's going to happen for me and my kids and my spouse if something happens to me. It's taken care of. You can live with that peace of mind and sleep at night, and it's not keeping you up, right? You're not worried about what's going to happen. There's a plan. Everybody knows how to follow the plan, and it's ready to go. Same with in business, right? If you know your trajectory in business and you understand what risks you're taking, and that's why there's rewards in business. With risk comes reward, right? But you can deal with those risks and you can overcome that stress of worrying about those risks by educating yourself and working with an advisor that can help you, guide you on a constant basis. Someone who's not just going to do some paperwork for you and hand it to you and then, not want to talk to you again, right? Someone who can be there for you to have a consistent relationship with. Best case scenario, they're not billing you for every time you call them, right? But you have that ongoing partner who is taking care of those and advising you proactively, not just reacting, oh, I got sued, I need a lawyer, or, my partner's mad at me, I need to call a lawyer. It's like, no, call a lawyer, work with an advisor, and put some plans in place and work together proactively so that they know where you're going, and make sure it's someone who's interested in what you're trying to accomplish so they can help build in your values and your goals and your principles into the business you're building.
Yeah, I feel like you totally get it, 100% get it. So Todd, do you yourself invest in real estate?
Actually, I'm in the process of started in the multi-family is kind of where I'm interested in starting working, partnering up with a partner who has a lot of experience in that. I've done a lot of deals. I've helped investors close a lot of deals, negotiate a lot of deals. And so me and my family have decided it's our turn to start closing some deals for ourselves. So super excited. That's one reason I'm glad to be going. I've always been excited about our relationship, Stacey, is because learning from what you know and what you're doing, we can definitely share alike, right? And help each other be successful. And
this is all about helping investors increase their wealth, preserve their wealth, create passive income for themselves, have a protective tax strategy in place so that you don't pay too much in taxes, and most importantly, how not to get sued and mitigate the risks. So we're going to link to your website down below this video. And then of course, everybody gets to shake your hand in person at the meetup. After you get down off the stage, you can have one-on-one conversations with Todd in the ballroom. So this is just going to be a fabulous, fabulous event. There's going to be so much value. There's going to be so much to learn. It's going to give you so much to think about so that you can start getting all your ducks in a row and be prepared and be ready to be ready to be ready to be ready so that you can just feel invincible and feel limitless and enjoy the fruits of your labor. You're not on this roller coaster, stressful entrepreneurial journey. You're actually enjoying your fruits. So Todd, do you have anything else to add?
I'm super excited about this. Again, thank you for involving me. I'm excited to share what I know and to support the investors that you're connecting with, and to be a resource. I love giving content and paying it forward, and I believe in we are all better together. So I'm really excited about this. Thank you.
Yes, you have such a beautiful heart. You are a breath of fresh air. You are so easy to talk to and connect with. I'm so glad that you're going to be there.